This is Cruise Radio.
I cruise a lot, and I always sail with travel insurance. You should too. Get a free quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Here we go.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. This is Cruise Radio.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Doug Parker. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Cruise Radio. Doing it from Las Vegas this week, out here for the day job for a conference. This week's show, we have a review of Carnival Paradise and staff writer Richard Sims on deck with cruise news. Hey, Richard.
Hey, Doug.
If you're hoping to visit Labadee, Royal Caribbean's private destination this year, don't start packing your bags yet.
Yeah, no, you're going to have a wait. Unfortunately for Royal Caribbean, Labadee is right smack in the middle of the area caught up in civil unrest in Haiti, which makes it very potentially dangerous for visitors. As a result, the cruise line, a while back, they temporarily halted calls there while they were waiting to see how the situation played out. And now it seems as if they've made the decision that they will not be returning there until at least the end of 2026. In a letter just sent to crew and other impacted employees, which was shared with us via the Cruise Radio tip line, the organization said, and I'm quoting, "After ongoing evaluation and monitoring of the situation in Haiti, we have decided to extend the suspension of ship calls to Labadee through December of 2026. They go on to say that this reflects their desire to prioritize the safety and well-being of both guests and team members, of course. This wasn't an easy decision for them to make for a lot of reasons, including how many employees will be impacted by this decision. But they go on to say, and I'm quoting here again, "We explored every reasonable option and thought through all responsible alternatives. Ultimately, the conditions on the ground leave us with no path forward that allows us to operate safely and sustainably in the year ahead." That makes sense on a lot of levels, and it clearly had to have been a difficult decision to make, because not only does it impact, the various crew members who work on and live on Labadee, but that is a moneymaker for them. I mean, if there's one thing we've seen over the last few years, private destinations are, as far as cruise lines they're concerned, they are the bomb. They bring in a lot of money, because why send that money to a port when you can keep it right there in your little jurisdiction there? So this was obviously, they took this seriously. You don't shut off that kind of cash flow without, as they pointed out, looking at various alternatives. So unfortunately, Labadee is not going to be on anybody's agenda in 2026.
NCL and their mysterious logo they were posting all over social media.
Yeah, we finally had some clarity on this one. Regular listeners will remember that last week we noticed Norwegian was putting out some strange things, let's call them strange, especially on their social media feeds. They featured men in 1700s style wardrobes dancing a jig, and it was just weird. There's no other word, it was weird. People were talking about it, not necessarily in a good way. They also went from, in a slightly less noticeable way, they went from a blue logo to one that was all black. It was obviously some sort of ad campaign, and now we know exactly what's going on. Seen in their fuller context, this new ad campaign actually makes more sense and is kind of fun. For example, one of the ad features the 1700s crew of a ship complaining about the dress code and how uncomfortable their uniforms are, and the shoes are really awkward, and they suggest something more along the lines of what they call flippy floppies. We then cut to a family on a modern NCL ship going to dinner, and the dad asking the hostess if flip-flops are cool, and she's like, totally cool, and escorts them to their table, as we get the tagline, "Finally, the sea as it should be," and their new slogan, "It's different out here." Now, actually, I shouldn't say their new slogan, because this is a throwback to the 90s. Back then, NCL was sort of shaking things up with their freestyle concept, and that was when they originally tagline, "It's different out here." So it makes sense that they're using sort of these retro, these 1700s kind of images, because they're basically saying we are going back to something that worked for us in the past. So it now makes a lot more sense, and when you see the actual ads, they're kind of fun.
And if you've ever wanted to own a cruise ship, we have some good news, but you have to act fast, right?
Yeah, the clock is ticking. I don't know about you, but I'd rather be on a cruise than try and run one. It just seems like a pain in the butt to me. But hey, everybody's got a dream. And if yours happens to be owning a ship, there's one going up for auction at the end of January. It's a 144 passenger ship called the Exploris One. And as the name implies, it was part of the now shuttered Exploris Expeditions and Cruises. Bids are already being accepted, and the auction is expected to be held on January 30th. The site hosting the auction is in French, so it's a little hard to figure out sort of details like how much will this cost me? But Uncle Google helped me find out that the ship was built in 1989 and was at one point part of the Silver Sea Fleet. It's also been refurbished several times, including as recently as 2023. It features 60 guest cabins and 12 suites. But one really important note I found, there was like this humorous English translation. I don't think it meant to be humorous, but it said, after the final sale, the auction house, quote, will not pack up or send your order. Thank you for understanding. So they're not going to ship you this cruise ship. So I guess everything after you buy it is up to you and figuring out how to get it where you want it to go.
And it only took 9 days into 2026 to have that first cruise ship outbreak.
Well, the dubious distinction goes to Holland American's Rotterdam out of Port Everglades. It returned to port with about 100 cases, 85 of whom were passengers. They were reporting symptoms of this, pretty notorious among cruisers illness. But the real question is whether we should count this as a 2025 or 2026 report, given that the ship departed in late 2025 and returned in early 2026. For those keeping track, or maybe in some weird kind of betting pool, we closed out 2025 with 23 outbreaks. And if you placed bet on which ship would walk away with the most outbreaks reported to the CDC, drum roll please, the Rotterdam squeaked out a win, if you want to call it that, with 3 outbreaks over the course of the year, including this one. But this is also where I put in my standard disclaimer that while you hear about outbreaks on sea because they have to be reported to the CDC and, all of that, you're really much more likely, like a gazillion times more likely, to catch the bug on land because nobody reports when Judy in accounting gives it to everybody in the office. And yes, Judy, we know it was you.
I travel quite a bit for work. I track all my flights on this app called Flighty. So last year I did, I think 198,000 miles and 98 flights, just under 100. So it put me in a lot of airports. I say that because it amazes me how many people do not wash their hands coming out of an airport bathroom, coming right out of the stall and just going back into the wild. I guess it's something I pay attention to just because how much the cruise ships are in the news for norovirus, but it's people like this that are causing it.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, and the cruise ships, honestly, they do the best they can. I mean, we've all seen the washy-washy stations. We've all seen, that every cruise line has hand sanitizing things everywhere you go. And there's only so much that they can do. And they certainly are doing more than, nobody when you're getting on your flight to Atlanta is standing there with a washy-washy thing and, spraying your hands before you get on the ship. So, we say this all the time and it's really important, especially you never know who's listening for the first time or who needs to hear this or who has a fear of getting on a cruise ship because of norovirus. Is it a possibility? Of course it is, but there's a greater possibility, or at least just as great a possibility at Disney World or the mall or anywhere. But you hear about it at sea and it's become thought of as a cruise ship disease because of the fact that at a certain point, and it's a pretty low point, honestly, cruise lines have to report to the CDC where none of those other places actually have to do that.
And some news coming out of Carnival Cruise Line that, well, it isn't all that surprising.
According to brand ambassador John Heald, the upgrade ferry is dead. That's right, folks hoping for a visit from the iconic creature of lore should wish upon a different star. For those not in the know, in the past, when people got a free upgrade, maybe from like an ocean view to a balcony stateroom, they'd get all excited and go online and say they received a visit from the upgrade ferry. And a lot of people would book lower rooms, like an inside room, hoping and praying to the upgrade ferry that they would, get a better room by when they went to get on board. But with bookings at an all-time high and ships sailing at 100% capacity and sometimes even higher, it just doesn't happen anymore. Or at least it happens incredibly rarely. Heald told people what we've been saying for years now: book the cabin you want, not the cabin you hope you will end up in. This is especially true now that most lines have implemented a process where you bid for an upgrade. In other words, the cruise lines, whether you're talking Carnival or Norwegian or pretty much any mainstream cruise line, they aren't going to give you something that they can charge you for. Several of the cruise lines have implemented. In fact, I've got a cruise coming up in March on Celebrity, and I just this week got a email from them saying, hey, here's how you can bid for an upgrade, and here are the upgrades available to you. So yeah, basically the bid to upgrade process is who will be listed as responsible for killing the upgrade ferry.
All right, that'll put a wrap on this week's cruise news. If the audio wasn't as good as it normally is, I am using a hotel Wi-Fi, and it can be challenging at times. All right, staff writer Richard Sims, as always, thanks, my friend.
Glad to be here.
The world is constantly changing. Your place for news is still the same. Online and on demand at cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer: if you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies: good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
Have a tip or a lead on a news story? Let us know. Email tips@cruiseradio.net.
Ryan just returned from a 5-night cruise on Carnival Paradise. It was going over to the Bahamas and back out of the port of Tampa over New Year's Eve. He joins us to talk all about it. Ryan, welcome back to the show, my friend.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, excited to talk about this fantasy class ship. Only a couple of them left out there floating around. So before we get to the Carnival Paradise, we'll take a step back here. Give me some pre-cruise thoughts. I mean, you're up in Michigan. What made you want to jump down here to Florida and take this 5-nighter?
Turns out that New Year's Eve is my birthday, and we wanted to have a little bit of fun over my birthday, but also the New Year. And while my kids were on holiday break from school and we had a little bit of time to spend, we wanted to have a little gathering and just have some time as a family. And we had sailed from Tampa before and wanted to go down and experience a little bit of family vacation time.
I love it. Now, I take it this time of year, pretty chilly up in Michigan?
Yeah, I think the day we left was about 20 degrees, okay, and we had got lots of snow, and so we were ready for some warmer temperatures. For sure. You make your way down to the Tampa area. Any pre-cruise time before you boarded the ship? Yeah, we had almost a full day in Tampa. We had flown down early, and I think we arrived at our hotel. It was almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And when we got there, we stayed at the Embassy Suites right by the convention center, right on the water. And so just so happened that our room was ready. So we were able to get in there, drop our bags, and then we spent the rest of the day in Tampa just exploring. It was a fun atmosphere. Both Iowa and Vanderbilt were in town to play in the ReliaQuest Bowl. So lots of Iowa and Vandy fans, a lot of fun atmosphere. And so we got some food and just walked around, enjoyed some warmer temperatures that day before the cruise. So you get to the cruise terminal. How was embarkation there, and how long did it take you to get from the curb to the ship? Embarkation was pretty smooth. We had a pretty early boarding time. This was our first time platinum guests, and so we had gotten a 10 a.m. arrival appointment. So we got to the terminal right at 10 o'clock and got to the waiting area, through security, checked in about 20 minutes, and they were not boarding just yet. So we had a short stay, about 20 minutes in the waiting area, and then they started boarding. And we actually got a little bit lucky. Also, we had originally booked a couple of ocean view rooms and got the magical call about a week before and got upgraded to a suite. So we were actually in the suite guests waiting area. And so right after the Diamond guests, we got to board right after that. And so we got on board the ship at about 55 minutes from the curb. So overall, not too bad. Once they started boarding, again, it was about 15 minutes, but overall 55 minutes from curb to ship.
You told me this was your second Carnival Fantasy class ship, the first one being Carnival Elation. So what were your impressions as you boarded this time around?
Well, we really were surprised because the ship was still decorated for Christmas, and we didn't know if it would be. And so it was really very festive to see the Christmas tree and all of the garland and lights in the main atrium when we walked in. But we really love this class of ship also because it has the atrium that goes from deck 7 all the way up with the skylight. And it has the glass elevators and just a beautiful impression when you first walk on board the ship. It's really amazing.
You mentioned you booked a suite here, or you got upgraded to a suite from the that magical phone call. What kind of suite, though? What kind of suite was it? Like on these fantasy class ships, is it the one that overlooks the swimming pool?
So this one was actually turned out to be an accessible suite. I think they never sold this cabin, and that's why it was available. We originally had 2 connecting ocean view rooms, and so when they called us, they said that the ship had been oversold. So I think they were looking to free up some rooms. So we had an accessible cabin, so the type that has automatic doors, no thresholds, and so this one had a large balcony that was on the port side of the ship. So it just overlooked the port side and had a wide open space in the middle of the room. The closets were kind of off to the side, and the bathroom itself had a huge shower that you could roll a wheelchair in. Mm-hmm. And so almost like a double-sized bathroom. So it felt like such a massive room compared to what a cruise ship bathroom normally looks like, even in a suite class. So it was really a nice layout, even from other balcony or suite cabins that we've been in the past.
You spoke a little bit about it already, but what were some of the main differences compared to, a regular balcony on a Carnival Cruise Line ship?
So this suite was essentially twice the size of a normal balcony cabin. So essentially, if you were to put 2 balcony cabins together, that size interior, and then it just stretched out the balcony too. So it really, instead of just 2 chairs, it had, I think, 3 chairs and then a little table. So room for 3 or 4 people to sit comfortably on the balcony. And again, 4 closets and lots of open space in the room itself. The only thing that was a little interesting is because it's essentially a double wide room, it did have a pole in the middle, I think probably for structural integrity.
You mentioned this was your first cruise as a platinum guest. So as you step into the platinum tier, what kind of benefits do you now receive?
So some of the differences are priority embarkation, and that may be one of the reasons why we got the call as opposed to some others. I think since we were already getting priority embarkation, they figured upgrading us to a suite, there wouldn't be that much of a difference in a service level. But you get priority embarkation. You can check in online 2 days early when you're at a lower tier. For ports that are tender ports or water shuttles, you do get priority water shuttle access. You can also get some priority, I believe, reservations at specialty dining if the ship has that, which this ship unfortunately does not. You also get some free laundry, depending on the length of the sailing, as far as how many bags of free laundry that you get. And then they offer some nicer free gifts for platinum and diamond guests.
Okay. Nice. Well, let's talk about food on this 5-night cruise. We'll go up to the top there by the pool at the Lido Buffet. How was the Lido food, and did it ever feel too crowded during your sailing?
The food itself was pretty decent overall as far as quality. Pretty limited selection because it's a rather small ship, and so the size of the Lido Buffet is pretty small compared to some other ships. Now, that being said, it's a smaller capacity ship, so it never really felt that crowded. There were almost always tables available. You didn't have to look too far to find one, which on some larger ships can be pretty difficult. Overall, breakfast food was pretty good. We did not do much lunch or dinner in the buffet itself, but they had omelet stations and during breakfast time where the deli would be, where the Pizza Pirate was, and then also out by the pool between Guy's Burger and Blue Iguana. They had an omelet station there as well. And then during the lunch hours, they would convert back to deli and to pizza. And then, of course, they had ice cream available. And then on this class of ship, there's also a bar inside the Lido buffet as well. And then at dinner time, they had some of the same selections that you would find in the main dining room. So if you did not want to go sit down or make, go to anytime dining in the main dining room, you could get a lot of the same food there at the Lido Marketplace.
You mentioned the food and there was pretty decent and pretty good. Do you think that they missed the mark somewhere?
I think probably just the fact that they would set food out, it may not have been as fresh as you might get if it was served in the main dining room. We tended to eat dinner in the main dining room, and on our port days, we would go typically to a sit-down breakfast in the main dining room. And so I think because those are, more timed, the food would be just a little bit fresher in the main dining room than on the buffet itself.
There are two main dining rooms on the Fantasy class ships, one mid, one aft. So what time dining did you have, and how was your experience in there throughout the 5 nights?
We had early dining on this sailing, and overall the main dining room was nice. The service was excellent. The appetizers were all very good. Some of the main entrees were excellent, but others were a little bit of a miss, honestly. They had a special menu for New Year's Eve, which was the day that we got on board. And I had a filet that was excellent. My wife got a dish that was a duet of lamb, and it was not terribly impressive, unfortunately. So ended up giving her some of my steak. If she had asked for a replacement or gotten something else, I'm sure they would have replaced it because our service staff was quite excellent. They had some excellent desserts, though. So overall, the desserts were really nice. On another night, the spaghetti carbonara, which is usually a very good dish, was pretty under-seasoned. All 3 of us that got that dish ended up adding both salt and pepper to it. And after we did that, it was fine. So a little bit hit or miss with the entrees, but overall, we thought the desserts and the appetizers were excellent.
I know that ship doesn't have like any specialty dining venues like a Fahrenheit or anything like that, steakhouse, but does their menu, does it still have like the Fahrenheit selections?
Yes, it does. They have a surf and turf. I think they have a steak. You can get the sushi boat. And then they added, I think, a Wagyu cheeseburger that was like, I think, and all of those selections are $25 additional charge. And as much as I was tempted to try that cheeseburger, it was hard for me to say how much better could that cheeseburger be than what I would get during lunch at Guy's Burger for free.
Exactly.
So I just couldn't justify paying $25 for it.
Fair enough there. Any, did you grab any late night pizza, or did your kids grab and swing through there at all at night?
We did get pizza quite a few times from Pizza Pirate, which was open until midnight. Another thing about the sailing is it was during the college football playoff. And so we actually spent a decent amount of time watching some of the games. And so on a night or two, we actually did eat in the main dining room because we were interested in some of the football games. So we would just go from deck 9 up to the Lido, grab some pizza from Pizza Pirate, and then head right back down. The pizza at Pizza Pirate was really, really good. There was always a wait. Because I think they were just limiting how much they were producing at a time, which was great because it was fresh, but you always had to wait about 5 to 10 minutes to get whatever you wanted. We did get some selections from the late night buffet that they had. I think it starts about 11 or 11:30 and goes till 1 a.m. That pizza that they had there was more basic, almost like cafeteria style, along with some other things like, chicken fingers or Philly cheesesteaks. That food was pretty basic and unremarkable. But when you're trying to get food at that time of night, I don't think you really care too much about the quality, and we didn't either.
Yeah, certainly. Room service at all, or do they have any of the kiosks like, I believe Elation has like a little bonsai sushi express there in the promenade. Do they have any of those on there?
Yeah, Paradise has that sushi express as well. We did not get that. And then you can order some room service from your room. You can call down to the room service department from your room phone, but then you can also order some items to be delivered to your room through the Hub app. And actually, there was one time, rather than wait in a long line for pizza, we actually ordered the pizza to be delivered to our stateroom and got it in about the same amount of time as we would have waited in line for about $6 for a full pie. So it wasn't too bad.
Let's talk about the entertainment. Was this your first time ever sailing a New Year's Eve cruise into the new year?
It was. And they had quite a few parties on board for the new year. They had in the atrium, the cruise director, Edgar, had an atrium party where they just basically kind of like a singing and dancing, different songs throughout many different eras. So a lot of fun. They handed out like light up necklaces, and they had in a lot of the staterooms like New Year's 2026 top hats and tiaras that they handed out. And then also throughout the ship in all of the nightclub and the promenade and several of the other venues, they had a lot of their bands and other music acts playing music. And so no matter where you went throughout the ship, you could find some New Year's celebration type events. And then on the Lido deck, just before midnight, they had a big countdown gathering, and they handed out flutes of champagne to everybody and then count down the new year. And then the captain or whoever on the bridge blasted the ship's horn. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds like it. Did any place stick out to you, or you may have returned time and time again because you really dug the music or the atmosphere?
I think in particular, there was a solo guitarist that was enjoyable to listen to. He didn't really play the type of music we like. He had a little bit more country than we like, but he was a good performer, engaged the crowd quite a bit. He tended to play in the lobby, but then also he actually played a little bit at the Platinum and Diamond gathering on the very last day, which was our first time to attend. So we got to hear him play. They also had string duo, violin and viola. They were fun to listen to because they also would take requests from the crowd. They had a booklet with all kinds of different songs that people could request, and that was a lot of fun. They had a full band that would play at different venues around the ship as well, and then of course they had a guy playing in the piano bar. I think a level or two up from the atrium.
At the VIFP reception, you went to the welcome back party there. So I take it must be on the smaller ships like the Paradise and Elation. They're actually still holding these events, because on the larger ones, they pretty much have stopped them and just adding that drink voucher to your folio.
Yeah, they still had the party. It was in the main theater, the Normandy Lounge at the front of the ship. And I think the day before the last sea day, we got a special invitation. And so we went to it. It was just before dinner time, and they had complimentary drinks. It was hosted by the cruise director, introduced all of the senior officers on board. Really, that was it, kind of more of just an introduction. And they handed out some plaques to the youngest loyalty person. I think there was a young man, 6 years old, who had made platinum. They gave out a plaque to the person who had the most days at sea and things like that. So just a little bit of recognition. And we talked to some other folks that were on board that had, I think it was their first time as well. It was just, so yeah, it was kind of a fun little event to meet and greet some other folks as well.
How were your sea days as far as crowds and congestion? Because I know on the Fantasy class ship, the Serenity is on the back of the ship, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, Serenity is on the back and it's pretty small. That area filled up pretty quickly unless you got there early, but there was quite a bit of space on the main Lido deck. Now it's kind of a split Lido. You've got the area right around the pool towards the front of the ship near the Blue Iguana, Tequila Bar, and Red Frog Rum Bar. And then there's a stage in the middle, and then there's another open space between the stage and where Geisberger and Blue Iguana Cantina are. And so they had deck chairs in that open space as well. So the area around the pool filled up pretty quickly on Lido, but there was almost always open chairs along the sides and then between the stage and the food venues. And then also all along the deck above Lido on deck 11, there were lots of chairs along both sides there. So it wasn't too difficult to find a place to sit on the Lido as long as you weren't too choosy.
I realize the pool isn't that large, but is there any entertainment out there by the pool on sea days?
They usually had just some canned music playing, and on occasion they would have one of the DJs come play some music, and then a few times they had someone that would play like a steel drum, like Caribbean sounds and things like that. So we didn't spend a ton of time up there, but they did have some events on that stage, you know, like the Legend of Lido or a couple of dance classes, Groove for St. Jude. It was also a little bit chilly on our sailing. I think on most days, for certainly the first sea day, it didn't really get much above 70 degrees. And on the last sea day, it finally got about, upper 70s. And that was a little bit more crowded. But overall, even like food lines throughout the sailing, it didn't seem very crowded at all.
Let's talk about the casino here on Carnival Paradise. Now, you do have to walk, to the side of the casino if you want to transit that main deck there. So how was the casino as far as the smoke situation in and around it?
It wasn't too bad overall. That's the nice thing about this class of ship is you don't have to walk through the casino like you do on some other classes. You can kind of go off to the side, on the starboard side. So you can go pretty far away from it. We did notice a little bit of smoke smell as you were walking by the casino, but once you got past it, it wasn't too bad. We did notice that some of the smoke smell tended to land, I think probably like a deck down near the back entrance of that midship, I think the Elation dining room. But overall, it wasn't too bad, and I think they may have had some purifiers going. You could kind of smell almost that like fake ozone smell like they sometimes have in like Vegas casinos.
Last time I was out in Vegas, I got a whiff of that, and it brought me back to, I sailed Carnival Luminosa a couple of weeks before that, and I was like, wow, that brought me back to Luminosa, but I guess it makes sense. All those casinos are using the same type of, I guess, mist or spray to dampen that smoke smell.
Yeah. It was kind of funny because they're like, oh yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. But yeah, overall, not too bad. And this ship actually still has quite a large bar right by the casino, but they don't allow smoking at that bar. And I think that makes a huge difference. You can only smoke in the casino if you're at a machine and playing.
That's good to hear. Okay. So let's talk about your ports of call here. You did a double header with 2 ports in the Bahamas. So what was your first port of call, and give us that highlight?
Our first port was Nassau, and for that port, we actually booked our own cabana at the British Colonial Hotel, and which is only about a 6 to 7 minute walk from the cruise port. Once you walk off the ship, you get through the little shopping area that they've built up there and out to the street. Just turn right and just kind of walk along the street and arrive there. We booked that independently, not through the cruise line. And and actually it's kind of interesting, a tip for people that are interested in that venue. You can book an individual day pass, but if you have 3 or 4 people, it's actually a better deal to book a private cabana, because you don't have to book the cabana in addition to the day pass. The booking the cabana essentially serves as your day pass, and then it actually includes 4 meals. So we had a cabana that was near the pool area, and gets you entry to the British Colonial Hotel, access to the pool, access to their private beach area, included some meals, and then I think 4 sodas, and then you can get, of course, drinks and things like that. So it was a really nice venue. We'd been there one time before, and so we knew it was just a beautiful place. The weather was a little bit cool, so we didn't spend much time, in the pool or the ocean, but just a great place to relax and just enjoy some time in the sun.
I was in Nassau this past November, and I noticed walking past Senior Frogs on that pier, going to that gazebo bar out in the middle of the water, you pass an entrance to a day club or a beach club. Is that the entrance for the British Colonial, or do you have to go to the front of the hotel?
You can go either way.
Okay.
We actually went around to the front entrance of the hotel because that's where our check-in instructions that we had for our booking suggested that we go.
Gotcha. And then your second port of call was Celebration Key. And I understand this wasn't your first time there, so this is kind of a repeat for you. But I am curious if you've noticed, well, first off, what did you do there? And did you notice much change from the first and second time?
So this was our second time. And the first time we just walked off the ship and found, a few loungers with umbrellas. And so this time we wanted to get a cabana. And so we looked around at some different options, and we originally had booked just a standard cabana. And something else to be mindful of too is to always double check, because we had booked a cabana and then I was just kind of looking around the website to see what else was available. And we had noticed that the price on it had dropped. And so that's something to watch out for, because you can cancel and rebook at that lower price if you would like to. There's no cancellation fee or anything like that if you cancel a shore excursion within a certain period of time up before the sailing. So we ended up canceling the original cabana and booking a slightly nicer one for just a little bit more than we paid. So we got one of the over-the-water cabanas, which was a little bit nicer and a little bit of a quieter area. And that ended up being really nice. The last time that we had visited, we didn't act too quickly, and we were unable to get wristbands for the water slides. The water slides are not included. Unfortunately, you have to pay for them. I think it's $15 if you just get a wristband, but they do sell out. And so the cabanas do include access to the water slides. So that's something to be mindful of. The cabana included some like refreshments, sodas, water, fresh fruit, chips and salsa. And so we were looking forward to that. And then we had a cabana attendant as well that kind of just checked on us throughout the day as well. It was a nice day. There was some included food with your Sail and Sign card at Celebration Key, or you can use your, included meal to get a discount at one of their other venues.
This may be a stupid question, but are you expected to tip the cabana attendant, or is there like a gratuity added to the purchase of the cabana from Carnival?
There's no expectation, and I just can't remember, but I don't think there is a service charge on the cabana.
Okay.
I'd have to double check on that, but I don't remember paying an additional gratuity on the cabana like you would on the Cheers package or something like that. But that being said, we did give an additional gratuity because they did check on us quite frequently and change out some of the drinks that they had originally provided for ones that we liked better. So we gave them a little extra tip because they provided some nice service to us.
What are your thoughts of Celebration Key, comparing it to Half Moon? Because you've been there before, correct?
Yes. I think the thing we like about Celebration is you don't have to take a water shuttle. It is a little bit you can make a good day of it. It does feel sometimes like you have to pay a little extra for some things that maybe ought to be included. For example, when we ate our lunch, for example, not only do you pay the service charge, but then you also have the VAT tax on top of it. So whatever your sticker price on any drinks or extra meals or things that you buy, you just be mindful that you're going to have some additional cost there, which I understand, is kind of part of the deal. But I think it's a really nice venue. I liked having the choice between a pool and the beach. And it does offer a lot of opportunity to choose if you want to pay for extras or if you don't. So that part of it I do like. And there are some areas that you can really spend time that is more of a calm, more relaxing environment, or you can get into some areas where it's more of a party atmosphere. So I think overall, we really like it. My kids really like Celebration Key, and we did too. And I think it's a nice offering, but you just need to be aware that, there could be some additional costs. And then, of course, just be aware that if you have any sort of drink package on board, that it just doesn't transfer over.
Great advice, too, about checking the pricing for the cabanas because they are fluid, which I did not realize.
I was very surprised. I didn't realize it, too. And it just ended up, being a surprise. And I actually tried to do the credit thing that sometimes Carnival will give you a credit if you find a lower priced shore excursion, but they wouldn't price match themselves. So they said, no, you just have to cancel it and rebook it. And I said, okay, I guess I'll just do that.
People can say what they want about Celebration Key. That is a well-oiled money-making machine for Carnival Corporation. Were you the only ship in port?
No, we were one of two ships there. Carnival Vista was also there, and they arrived before we did. But even though there were two ships there that day, it really did not feel very crowded. And you could tell that they're going to expand. You could see the construction on the extension of their pier, as well as some additional construction on an expansion of more venues off in the distance. So I think Carnival knows exactly what they're doing, but it is a great experience overall.
Yeah, certainly. You leave Celebration Key and steam back towards Tampa Bay. How was the debark process once you arrived back into Florida?
Probably the smoothest debark we've ever had. We decided to go with self-assist. We had carry-on luggage. We're pretty able-bodied. We were on deck 6, and you disembarked the ship on deck 7, so we knew we only had to go up one level. We also had a late morning flight, so we knew we didn't want to have to wait too much for our luggage. So we decided to just do the self-assist. And I think we woke up a little bit early, got some breakfast, did the digital debarkation, and selected a debarkation time of around 8 a.m. We got off the ship, I think it was about 7:55, and walked on through ups and down some escalators, and we hit the curb in about 8 minutes.
Oh, wow. That's really good.
And we all had passports, so we were able to use the facial recognition. But even people that were traveling with birth certificates that had to go through and have their documents checked, it looked like that may have added maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah. Again, super fast debarkation process. Only a little bit of a delay with trying to get a ride share from the port to the airport, but I think we were at the airport by 9 o'clock.
Okay. What kind of tips do you have for someone considering a fantasy class ship, so either Carnival Elation or Paradise?
I think a thing to be mindful of is just knowing that there is not a lot of extras aboard these ships. Again, they're older. They've added a lot of, they've really taken them through some dry docks and really updated them. But there's not a lot of extra specialty dining venues. There's not a lot of extra activities. But that being said, the layout of these ships are really easy to navigate. Almost all the staterooms are together on 4 decks, and then almost all the activities are also together on 4 decks. So getting around the ship is really easy. And I would say also, I think these ships also tend to do shorter sailings. And so I think that's a good thing, because I think much longer than a 4 or 5 day sailing, there's a possibility that someone could get bored. So I think just taking a look at the itinerary would be a good tip, making sure that the ports of call are really some places that you really want to go. That's a really good thing to be mindful of.
Looking back, what was the biggest highlight of this cruise for your family?
I think for us, there's two that come to mind. The New Year's celebration was really fun. Also the surprise of getting upgraded and having all of that in the mix on our very first day on board was really awesome. And then our day at Celebration Key was just a lot of fun. We did finally get the chance to check out the water slides, even though the water was incredibly cold. But our cabana there was really wonderful, and we had a great day at Celebration Key.
Do you feel that the value was there for the price you paid for this cruise?
It really was. I think even if we hadn't gotten an upgrade to the suite and we had been on our original rooms, we felt like the sailing checked a lot of boxes for us, and we were very happy with the price we paid overall, and we were very glad to do it.
Final thoughts of Carnival Paradise.
Final thoughts on Carnival Paradise. It is a bit of a throwback to kind of an older style of cruising, just because it's more of a classic ship. But that being said, from the inside of the ship, it is a beautiful ship. It doesn't, feel like a ship that's, 27 or 28 years old from the inside. It may look that way on the outside, but as you walk through the ship, it just looks beautiful. It offers a great experience. The staff is amazing, and it was overall a wonderful experience.
Been speaking with Ryan about his 5-night cruise on Carnival Paradise. Ryan, always good talking to you, my friend. Happy New Year, and thanks again for checking in.
Thanks, Doug. It was great talking to you.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast, or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your